Hello and welcome back to Dublin Radio Wrestlecast. Today it's Brett and I. We're going to chat about a couple of AEW things that have been going on, in particular the Full Gear 2023 pay-per-view and the Like a Dragon Street Fight, because we're huge game nerds here.
How could we not? And Ryan is the one of the Yakuza-ist people that I know. So this is bound to happen.
Of course it was. I have to mention the Like a Dragon Street Fight, which was on the Dynamite prior to Full Gear. And
Mhm.
the reason I want to bring this up is not at all related to the wrestling in it, even though it was very good. It's the fact that they actually put out the Yakuza style set,
No, yeah, they
and
served.
someone got hit with a bicycle.
So
And
that
that
with a
was
bicycle.
my list of needs from this fight. Um,
Uh,
yeah, I think this was very good. It was very fun. I think this is the type of like weird gimmick match that AEW tends to pull off pretty well. My only
mhm.
disappointment is that they did not appear to be tearaway suits. And I
Yeah,
wish
that would have been
nothing
funny.
more than Kenny Omega walking up to the top and then ripping a suit off.
Yeah, that would have been sick.
The
I
only thing
just
I truly
love
desired.
because okay, Kenny obviously super big dork gamer. He has so many like deals and makes so many appearances in other like game studios and in Yakuza multiple times, I think.
Yeah, he's
Uh
a collectible fighter in a couple of them.
yeah. Ibushi, you know what? He probably knows what the Yakuza games are, but for all we know, he may just sit in his room that looks like fucking Rei Ayanami's room from Evangelion. It's just a concrete cube where he lifts weights all day and that's it. Uh, Paul White, he's a gamer. The man vapes and plays Destiny 2 for a big amount of his day, which is really funny. I don't think Chris Jericho knows what Yakuza is, and they were just like, you just gotta get in the suit, and it's gonna be
I
really
don't
cool.
know, because he was
Trust us.
playing it
Trust
up,
us. He,
though.
he did, but I feel like he's just like, what? Why are we doing this? And then Kenny and everyone else would be like, okay, here's the deal. And he was
He
like,
went full send
oh,
on it as
okay.
soon as someone
He
else told him
did.
what was going on.
Because I want to imagine that conversation. I wish I was a fly on the wall for that because even Tony Khan, I bet, was like, okay, sure, we'll do that if you think it's going to be good for business. I don't know who Akiryu is, but you know what? Well, it's fine.
Silly Brett, this
uh,
is about Joryu, because it's like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his
oh, you're
name,
right.
themed Street Fight.
Sorry.
I don't know what you're talking about, but this was, we should mention the wrestlers who were involved in this. This was Powerhouse Hobbs, Takeshita, Brian Cage, and Kyle Fletcher against Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, Kota Ibushi, and Paul White. Wacky teams here, part of the ongoing
hmm
Elite Breakage storyline that's been happening, and Kenny siding with Jericho over the Bucks, which will
hmm
continue in the
Yeah, it
pay-per-view.
pays off.
It pays off. But there's a few moments in this match that I wanted to, in particular, call out. One of which is good old Paul White throwing Kyle Fletcher off the side, missing the table fully. Like,
Yeah,
man does
yeah.
not go through the table, and it looks like his head clips it. I'm
It does.
stunned that Kyle Fletcher did not get a serious injury from this.
Yeah.
But it seems like he's fine. So I think that's good, but that is one of the scarier looking things I've seen happen in a wrestling match, because it's a thing that can go wrong so easily. Uh,
hmm
I also want to mention Takeshita showed up in full Goro Majima cosplay,
Yes.
essentially
Yes.
full on eye patch snake skin suit. Very very good look there. And then yeah, Kenny and Kota obviously have their own version of like a dragon themed wrestling gear, with Kenny having the dragon tattoo tights. Uh,
Yeah.
Other things here. Paul White getting thrown onto the hood of a car.
Yeah, that they just killed him live on air. They just actually murdered him on television.
Because isn't the reason he doesn't wrestle very much is that he has trouble walking because
Well,
of
because
his
that's the thing.
injury?
He's so tall and he's just such a big dude that like he does have like joint and bone problems in his legs because that's just what happens when you're a super tall dude in general. But
And it
like
gets
yeah, that's
exacerbated by the stress of wrestling. Like,
exactly, yeah, yeah. So which is why he's like he used to be on like dark commentary for a while, and he's like around for some like behind the scenes things. So I was very surprised to see Big Show wrestle again, and he did like just the two things, and they were, they might not have been perfect, but they were both brutal, and my man was in like a massive suit, so you know what, he did his job.
Yeah.
I hope he's okay because it was awesome.
Because they have specified since that like he might have gotten injured doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like
But I
kayfabe
don't know
or
if it's just
not,
like
the way
part of
they
it
worded
because they
it.
could be selling it up because wrestling often does the like fake
Exactly.
injury angle, especially for people that aren't on TV very often.
Yeah, because there's no way for you to know if he's okay. It's not like he's gonna appear tomorrow or something. He's like never around.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume he's probably fine because we haven't seen any like
Yeah.
Twitter media or anything covering it. Generally, that's what happens if there's a real injury. Uh,
Hmm.
Ibushi on a bicycle is something that will live in my mind forever, especially because he goes so
Yep.
slowly.
It
Just
was
taps
amazing.
people
There's
with a
like
bike.
he like was like riding at like 2 miles an hour and just like bonked them on the head with something. I don't even remember what the something was. It was just like a
It's a steel
little
pipe. It's a steel pipe, which
like
is very Yakuza. But it is very silly because he's clearly not hitting full force because he's staying focused on moving the bike.
of
Uh,
course, yeah.
it's incredible. That bike then later gets thrown into, I believe, Kenny. Gets hit
Kenny
with
and
it.
then Kenny gets hit with it and then it's on like the mat and then Coda gets suplexed onto it, which looked extremely painful because oh my
Which is
god.
that is straight up a Yakuza thing. Is like beforehand, I was like, are they actually gonna pull some Like a Dragon stuff out here? And they did. The milk crates are a
Hmm.
standby in every Like a Dragon fight. There's always milk crates around that you can throw at people. There's always a bicycle that you can pick up and hurl. Tables, chairs are all fair game. So it was very fun to see this actually translated into wrestling. So I think this worked a lot better than I think most people would have thought
Yeah, seriously.
beforehand. Jericho in a suit is very funny. Is that he just
Hmm.
wrestled in the suit the whole time, and unlike Paul White, was actually wrestling the whole time.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, very goofy. The Powerhouse Hobbs getting taped up was a very funny moment of like showing how big of a threat Hobbs is, which has done a good job of building Hobbs up recently.
Yeah.
It's very nice to see. But yeah, solid match. Aside from that, Kenny and Jericho, I believe, won this
Pretty sure, yeah.
for their group. Yeah, because they didn't have to break up.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and then Kota like at the end of the match they won and Ibushi came into the ring with like a real shovel and was like, "Oh, I don't need to use this." Oh, okay, good guys. And he just put it
yeah, he
down
just
and
had
everyone
it
was like, "No,
there.
we won, dude. It's fine."
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
absolutely wouldn't have surprised me to see it get used at some
oh, for
point.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure it was supposed to or something, but I don't know. For that's the thing. There's something about it being a Yakuza branded match where it's like, yeah, it's maybe a little bit more stupid than usual, but it's fine. It fits. It's funny. It works because of the type of sponsorship that it is. If anything, it fits the property because Yakuza is very silly like that sometimes.
Yeah,
And so
especially
in
because
a
they
weird
had
kind
on
of way, it works.
the Titantron was just Kabukicho the whole time in the
Yeah,
background, which was very
yeah.
good. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that match because I think it was a very nice gimmick match and a fun way to do a sponsorship that isn't super obnoxious.
And
I would
didn't feel
take that over
forced.
DraftKings and stuff anytime.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Now, for actual full gear, let's jump into our actual full gear card. Because we've got a couple
Hmm.
things going on in the pre show this time.
Yes.
Comparatively, we don't tend to talk very much about the pre shows because there's not usually a ton of importance. But we had three actual 10-minute matches in the pre show.
Yeah, they
And
started doing things again.
there was important stuff. And there was Eddie Kingston in the pre show. So, of course, I'm going to watch Eddie Kingston,
Hmm.
um, who won, obviously, against Jay Lethal. So that was a fun opener. I think Kingston is always very entertaining, and Jay Lethal is a very good wrestler who is often just undercredited.
Yeah.
Doesn't get a lot of star time. Anything else you want to talk about with that match? Before we move to the next
Um,
one.
I mean, whenever I feel like whenever Eddie isn't on like the actual pay-per-view itself, they always have to have him on the pre-show because of his silly little speeches that he gives. He's done this multiple times, or like he finishes his pre-show match or whatever, and he asks for the mic and they give it to him. He's just like, "Hey, everybody, get ready to have a great fucking night. I love
Which
you
is
guys."
hilarious because I remember hearing on commentary one of the I think Excalibur had like corrected him like, "Hey, we're on YouTube right now. We can't say the F word." And then Kingston takes the microphone and is just like, "Have a fucking great night." Like,
Yeah.
I lost it. Yeah, because clearly he did not get the memo.
Of course.
And I loved that. It was
It's
very funny.
awesome.
Yeah, I
And I don't
think
think it's
Kingston.
super mad at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just a demonetization thing. If you say it too many times, you get demonetized. Maybe they were saving it for Kingston. Yeah, and I'm still surprised that Jeff Jarrett is. It hasn't fully settled for me that Jeff Jarrett's in the middle of AEW right now.
Yeah,
But it's working.
weird.
It's working, so let it happen, I say. Yeah, fun opener match. Moving on to our next one, Claudio Castagnoli versus Buddy Matthews, which Claudio does take home at the end. And this is always two people that I really love watching wrestle. Buddy Matthews is exceptional as a like speed wrestler, and he is ripped to all hell and back. So,
yeah, he is a very wide boy.
He is the wide Kylo Ren meme, and it's very funny.
Yeah.
But he's also extremely intimidating, and I think this was a good matchup for that, of like having the two, I don't want to say like C-listers, but the B members of their factions duke it out here. Yeah, always very, very entertaining. Claudio is, of course, on top of his game and takes it home. All right. Any notes about this match, Brett?
No, it was just solid.
Yeah, this is one of the simpler ones on the card too, because there wasn't any extended storyline here that we need to pay attention to. Unlike our next match.
Yes.
Which is MJF and Samoa Joe teaming up because MJF had agreed to Samoa Joe's request that if he would be his tag partner in replacement of Adam Cole being injured, Samoa Joe would get a title shot, assuming they won the match. So this happened. They teamed. They clearly had a will they won't they energy the whole time and could not,
of course,
cooperate. This is very much a could not can they coexist match. And they did long enough to win, but very clearly they're not going to keep coexisting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Samoa Joe is always very fun to watch, as I lovingly refer to him, the Cereal Man.
Yeah.
And, MJF's new gimmick, I think, is still being received very well, which is surprising me that it's kept being fresh for this long. Because this is longer than MJF tends to hold any one thing, especially a like face turn type of thing. So I don't know. It's very impressive to me that this is holding so well, and I can't wait to see how they actually turn this into whatever storyline's coming next. And I'm actually in a rare position. I think I'm totally down for just whatever they want to do. If they want to extend this, they can extend it, because it's clear that Samoa Joe is going to be the next big thing for MJF. But like the MJF and Adam Cole storyline can obviously still keep going for a long time, and they're doing a really good job of keeping that storyline on TV despite Adam Cole being injured.
Yeah, seriously.
With all of our knowledge as a shoot injury and like a real injury.
Yeah, which is like, it's just crazy, and props to him for like being up for it and like doing it every single week multiple times, because it ends up being like, because my mom especially is a massive mark for MJF, and every single time it's just like, when I was home, she was like, "Oh, Brett, when you read the card, just tell me if there's anything with MJF and Adam Cole planned for tonight, because they're like the best segments, even if it's not them like going to whatever Wingstop anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
Adam Cole's on a bum leg. It's still like they have their funny little video call, and Roderick Strong comes in and goes, Adam, and it's just funny every single week. And you could tell like it doesn't feel like it's going to like drag on forever, because they have like multiple foreseeable switch ups like coming. Like you said, we have Samoa Joe is in the running, probably up next.
Well, it's because this is just a really good like MJF and Adam Cole. We thought for a while was going to like culminate into them breaking up and then fighting. That isn't what happened. They had a match together. It went really well, and they came back together at the end. So I don't know. I'm excited to see where they inevitably end up going with this because it's clear that they're not doing the obvious angle,
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
that's working better for it.
Hmm.
Especially
I
because MJF is
wonder.
still busy with other things.
Yeah, that's another thing I was gonna say because after or alongside Samoa Joe, like Wardlow is like I just want to remind you, MJF, I keep popping out of corners to scare the shit out of you, but I'm gonna get you on my time. I'm gonna kick your ass. And they have whoever's in the Devil Mask. Roderick Strong, I would imagine at some point is gonna come after MJ. Like they just have so many things that could happen next, which is why I agree with you. They really could keep the belt on MJF for like as long as they want. Probably until Wembley, so that Will Ospreay could take it. Is what I foresee is going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well, honestly, I
this
wouldn't be
is
surprised if there's a back and forth with Samoa Joe. I think that could be a thing. If
I can see it.
he drops it to Samoa Joe and then gets it back after.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would stay on Joe if that did happen, but we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. This
Yeah,
is a solid match. We'll end up talking more about that obviously at the end of the show because there is another MJF match coming up. Um, but yeah, this is very good. Samoa Joe is just very entertaining to watch as a like personality as well, which I think is something that he's really improved on since his time in like NXT comparatively.
Mhm.
He really plays
He's
it
very
up, which is great.
consistent.
And MJF is always, of course, consistent. And the Guns have gotten a lot more entertaining as well, I think, in
Yeah,
recent
definitely.
years. So, yeah, they take it home, defeat the Gun Club, and MJF has to now have a bout with Samoa Joe later on. But there's a hang up here. Adam Cole comes to congratulate them and show up, and MJF gets his leg beaten up real bad.
Yeah, and it's Jay White, not Samoa Joe, also because it's
Yeah, Jay White.
the Guns and the rest of Bullet Club Gold beat the crap out of his leg. I believe Juice Robinson crawls over and does like a fake lifting up his leg to dog pee on MJF. For
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, that image stuck in my mind. I can't imagine why.
Why wouldn't it?
And Juice Robinson is insane. And yeah, they carry him out on a stretcher. They do it all dramatic. They show him all the way to the ambulance, and he says, "Adam Cole, please don't let them take my belt. Please don't let them take my belt." And he goes, "Okay, I won't, I guess." And then everyone's like, "Well, MJF is gone, so I guess Adam Cole is going to have to defend his championship against a fully healthier than ever Jay White at the end of the show." So that is like looming over the kind of like reveal that specific thing like halfway through. But like it's such a cool thing for a pay per view to have like the main event be in like jeopardy like that. It
Yeah,
was pretty
especially because it's
interesting.
a pay per view. Like they could do whatever they wanted, right? Like this is
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
they're not beholden to TV time or anything. It's obviously they wanted to stay around 4 hours, but there's not as strict limits here. So it was very exciting, and I think a really good angle to take, especially because they played it really straight the whole time of like
Yeah.
Adam Cole clearly not knowing what's about to happen the whole time, but wanting to stick by his friend, which is just it's good storytelling.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's the pre-show. That's our pre-show match with Jay White being a pompous ass, as
Yes.
he should be, with JF, who is also a pompous ass, but in a more endearing way now. All
He's
right,
our scumbag.
he's our scumbag. We can cheer for MJF, and it doesn't feel bad now.
Yeah.
All right, let's pop into the actual main Full Gear show and start out with a pretty solid first match, I think, for what they could
Oh
have picked
yeah.
here. Um, AEW tends to do a lot of really good opening matches, and this is up there for me. Sting,
Mhm.
Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland, accompanied by Ric Flair.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel real.
And
It's
the
so weird.
patriarchy of Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. Um, this is a very good group of people, aside from Ric Flair. It was just a really,
Yeah.
especially because they really linger on him a lot in this match. Like it would feel less weird if he was just there as a manager, but they
Mhm.
really focus on Ric Flair's wanting to fight.
It's really funny.
It comes off as comedic because he clearly like can't do it anymore. Like,
No, he's so old. He's so drug addled. He's just like falling apart. He's there and he says things
yeah,
somehow.
especially with stuff
It's a
like
good
the Dark Side
zombie.
of the Ring documentary and all that.
Yeah.
It's just a weird feeling when Ric Flair's on screen that I'm not sure this match needed. But
Mhm.
aside from that, we got good entrances from both groups here, and cuts to Kim Jong and Steve-O in the audience, of course,
Yeah,
because this is
definitely
the LA
necessary.
show. They got some big names here, and I want to call out the orphanage-based singers.
I I loved that. I loved that so much.
About like I forget the whole story here, but I believe it's Christian Cage funds part of this thing that these children are from,
Yeah,
and
he has like a charity thing
it's a
for
charity for an
children.
orphanage or something, and they bring a bunch of children on stage and they sing the like la la version of Christian's theme, and it is clearly not trained singers. I think makes
Oh,
it better.
of course,
I think
yeah.
makes
I
it
think
so much better.
because it had to be like purposefully awkward, right? Because then like afterward, at some point, he's like, or maybe I said this to the people I was watching with, but I was just like, no, yeah, those are his kids. They're all his kids. They don't have fathers. Well, they have one now, and it's him. So it's just it's perfect for him. Just like, oh my god.
Yeah, this
It's one
great
of those things
entrance.
where it worked more when like the actual song came in, but just it was so like, oh, they can't possibly be serious, but
Especially
they
because it
did
then
it, and it
comes
was
up with
really funny.
selfless, loved, courageous, and whatnot on the numbers.
Yes.
It's so funny. And yeah, I really think this was a very good heel entrance for the patriarchy,
Hmm.
which is the heeliest heel name that you could have come up with, which is great.
Yeah.
Christian's heel run. I don't know. It's showing up good for me.
It's amazing, dude. I He knows exactly what he's doing. It's hilarious. It's really mean. I think at the end of the day, in a weird sort of way, it like it works having Ric Flair there because Christian Cage does not hesitate to just like vocally beat the shit out of him and like talk
Yeah.
about how he's like a walking corpse instantly on live television right in front of his face. It's just like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, Christian's
Uh,
not pulling any punches here. Nick Wayne is, as always, super impressive for how young he is, and Luchasaurus
mhm.
is very intimidating for how weird and dinosaur-y he is.
Yep.
All right, yeah, this match goes on. They build up the whole plot line of Sting's last match is coming up in
Yeah.
Revolution, I think it is 2024. So we're building up to it. They're playing up the angle that Ric Flair is going to be by him every step of the way. Just very funny every time they say it because Ric Flair is so enthusiastic talking about it, but so clearly unable to fight.
It's
It's
yeah.
I really hope they don't do a wacky retirement match with Ric Flair. That's gonna be
No, yeah, because Ric Flair's already had like two last matches. I don't think either of them were very good because he's just so old. I don't know, like, and
I feel like the
he
obvious last match for Sting is Darby. I think that's
it has to be, yeah,
the
from just
obvious
like a
end the
like
run with
a
Darby.
yeah, that would be the most anime thing to do. AEW is no stranger to doing storylines like that. It will be a tearjerker, and it will be awesome. Because Sting
Yeah.
and Darby are both awesome.
Well, let's talk
Also,
about something else awesome. Adam Copeland and Christian Cage facing
I was just gonna
off.
say, yeah, they keep teasing it. Not too much of it happened at all because Christian keeps running away, being a
Christian
little
runs away
asshole.
every time. He tags out
Yep.
after taunting Adam Copeland and then being like, "You said you wouldn't fight me. Why are you fighting me?"
Yeah.
Just playing that
And
up.
I
I love the ring gear for the entire Darby and Sting side
yes,
too.
dude. It's so good. It's Edge. I just call him Edge. It doesn't matter. It's different. It's different than dead naming Brian Danielson as Daniel Bryan because Edge just comes out so much easier than Adam Copeland. No one, if he could take it, he would have.
Having a hard time
Um,
coping.
yes, which I don't know if we talked about last time, but he did. trademark the word cope in wrestling, so there's probably going to be merch that revolves around that.
I love that.
But there's this thing that happens that AEW does consistently better than WWE, which is where Edge was for the last couple years before miraculously showing up at the last pay-per-view. And they tried to do a bunch of stuff with him in WWE, like just post injury, post not wrestling for a really long time because of that super serious neck injury, and like being told like, yeah, you're not gonna wrestle again or whatever. It's really unsafe. They like build one match against like Randy Orton as like the best match ever before it even happened, and it's just like,
Yeah.
dude, this guy's old. He's clearly like trying to be careful that he doesn't hurt himself again, and as a result, wasn't a good match, and he got injured. I don't know what they were thinking, what their training regimen is in the background, or what sort of thing could have caused that. But apparently, and I think this is paraphrasing Sting, but it's one of the guys on the, it's not Sting's age, on the older side in AEW's roster that wasn't WWE at one point for like
Yeah.
a comeback sort of run, and they're like, WWE as people our age wrestle so infrequently that we can't really get back into it. We can't get used to it again because we don't do it enough. So that's why like injuries happen more often, because their bodies they're less used to it. It's just how exercise works. Even when you're old, you still gotta like keep up a consistent regimen of like doing things that are brutal to your body to keep yourself from the really bad stuff happening. Meanwhile, in AEW, like Sting has they might mostly be tag matches, but he has like more than just 2 matches a year. He has like every other pay per view and more matches in between. Same with Jeff Jarrett. Same with Billy Gunn now, even is wrestling more often. And Edge's first match in AEW was very like that he did a couple spears and maybe like 2 other things. And it
Yeah.
was cool to see him in the ring again, but it was very obvious that he was like stiff, a lot of ring rust. But he was great in this match. All that leading up to say that I think whatever they're doing, he's shaken off most of the ring rust, because his
Yeah, I
spears
mean, there's a
look
sequence
absolutely deadly,
early
dude.
in this match where he pulls a sequence of like moves that just look so smooth. It looks Christian
Yeah,
level smooth. Of like Christian
exactly.
wrestles as if he has not aged a day past 20, and that's
Yeah.
really really impressive. Because you know he puts the work in, and so does
Hmm.
Adam Copeland here, and it's very impressive to see that growth in this match, especially because AEW has him wrestle a lot more often than WWE did. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think this is
It's
just really solid.
it's super, that's why I think it's super smart, other than the obvious reason of like teasing people so that they watch next time. That's why it's super smart to have Christian Cage constantly run away, is because they probably want Edge to be closer to Christian's level, so when they fight it's actually really good, instead of forcing him to do it like immediately, to like immediately grab the crowd appeal and then just kind of
Yeah,
force like
it also
a
just tells
really
a more interesting story.
one-sided. Yeah, exactly. It's paying off in multiple ways, so I'm
Yeah.
glad that they went this way with it.
Of course, Darby and Sting are always impressive. They
Hmm.
very, very rarely fail to show off their incredible move set and whatnot when they're fighting.
Hmm.
Sting, of course, looks so much better than his age would suggest, uh, being that he's retiring soon. So
Yeah,
it's very impressive.
really.
And Darby is doing a really good job of like Darby always shows well against big folks like
Hmm.
Luchasaurus. So having Darby here just does a really good job of playing off of Luchasaurus with this feud. And Nick Wayne is basically the anti-Darby.
Pretty much, yeah.
Young and extremely fast, really good at what he does. Although Nick Wayne tends to wrestle a much more ground-based style than Darby often goes for, like the
Yeah.
death drops and whatnot. Uh, so yeah, it's super impressive, and I think they played everything up really well here. there's an awkward moment at the end where they're going like, "Hey, look, this is the last time Sting's in California," and it's just really long because Ric Flair is in the center the whole time and not Sting. Like the framing
Yeah,
for it, which is really awkward. I don't actually think that's Ric Flair's fault at all. I think it's just the way they framed the scene looked wacky. Um, but yeah, Ric Flair's managed team of Sting, Darby, and Copeland wins this one as Christian runs off into the distance
yep. Just
and
through the crowd and
full
abandons
on just runs
Luchasaurus
away.
and Nick Wayne.
Just
It's so
really good.
funny.
All right. Uh, any other thoughts on this match before we move on?
No, solid opener, pretty much. That's
All
it.
right. We move on to Orange Cassidy, accompanied by Hook, with John Moxley, accompanied by Wheeler Yuta, in a international title defense. And this is
Yeah.
playing up the idea that Cassidy, I believe, has never won against Moxley on a singles
Nope.
match. So they're playing up that whole angle, building up to Cassidy coming out in this whole idea that this is the boss battle for Orange Cassidy.
It's
Um,
yeah, because he lost to Mox, who is supposed to have the belt right now, but because Mox got injured in Real, had to
yeah,
drop it back to Cassidy basically.
yep. Which is super interesting because this is basically them playing back that match with the same narrative stakes functionally, except Orange Cassidy has a harder job here because he's already lost.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think they played very well here, considering that Cassidy does win here and retains
Yep.
the title,
Yep.
which I wasn't expecting. This was, I think, the
No, me
biggest
neither.
surprise for me. Of like, I was almost certain this was going to go back to Moxley, and I'm really glad that isn't what happened here because I think that it's a more interesting story now because Orange has to be taken seriously. Um, Moxley did not go down like a chump. He took like 4 of Orange's finishers before.
I think it was 6 orange punches, and they weren't like flimsy ones. They
No, they
looked
were
like
full on like leaping fist punches to the
yeah.
face.
Uh-huh.
And Orange Cassidy, of course, is always really impressive with his Hurricane Ranas and other acrobatic moves that Moxley plays very well off of.
Mm.
These two have very different styles, and that shows incredibly well in how they're doing. Like Moxley's biting and scratching, and Cassidy's just being as fast as possible.
Mm.
And really not taking this lightly at all. This is not a moment of like having Orange Cassidy lightness here. This was very much a full force match from the start. Uh,
Yeah.
Going into it, and yeah, just very impressive. This was one of the shorter matches on the card, but they used every minute of it very well. Any other thoughts?
No, yeah, this is another like I just don't have any complaints really. It was just another solid match. No like other than the surprise of Orange being the one to win. Um Nothing too much to point out, but I do think also that in retrospect, now that we know the leagues that they're called for the Continental Classic,
Yes.
the WG1 that they're starting now. Mox is in that, so it makes sense because he doesn't Mox doesn't need a championship period in whatever he's doing. But if if he's in a tournament, um, with other championships on the line, which there's 3 championships on the line because Eddie Kingston has put both of his belts that he has up for grabs for whoever wins. Uh, that's going to be a really cool thing to see Mox have like nothing to lose and fight for. Mostly because I mean Eddie and Mox are both in it. Eddie has really high stakes, and Mox is Mox. It's a good chance that the finals are going to be them fighting, which is going to be really
Yeah.
good, probably because it's those two, and they have their past and stuff. But yeah, I did this match pays off in multiple good ways, which I feel like is something that you can say for literally everything in this pay per view has like an ending where you can go, oh yeah, no, I see what the next steps are, and they're good.
Yeah. I think unlike a lot of the other pay-per-views that have had messy moments,
Yeah.
this was really, really solid. All right. Moving on to our first women's match of the night. Thankfully, there are two.
I know. And dare I say, in a shocking improvement, neither of them suck. Like they're
I would say
both
both of them are
varying
quite
levels are
good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Hikaru Shida versus Timeless Tony Storm and Luther.
Mhm. With Luther.
With Luther, they made very certain you know Luther is there.
Oh, I'm
uh,
so glad he's back.
and yeah, Tony Storm's gimmick is great. Her whole introduction where the screen cuts to black and white and whatnot works very well.
Mhm.
Um, they're playing it up very well. Her expressions are uh, to the level of like Britt Baker and the other women's people
Yeah.
that AEW keeps relying on, not for their in-ring performance, but for their ability to like show a character. And so I'm glad Tony Storm has like fallen into this really good gimmick here. Hikaru
Yeah,
Shida is always
seriously.
just like super impressive to watch. Uh,
Mhm.
Incredibly fast. Her gear here was very interesting and cool.
It's
Like
do you know what it's based off of?
I know I'm gonna recognize it as soon as you tell me what it's based off of.
It's it's based off of the female side character from Shin Megami Tensei 2, Ryan. Which is like
Incredible.
what an insane grab. Like I obviously I watched the whole match and I was like, oh yeah, just cool Joshi style Hikaru Shida outfit. You know she made that herself because she always does. Awesome, cool. And then Wrestle Ryan looked up after the fact that it was supposed to be, and no, yeah, it's the character for Shin Megami Tensei 2. It's
Super cool.
kind of
Wild.
crazy.
Yeah, this was a really fun match. I think most of us probably expected the resolution that we got here of Tony Storm
Mhm.
winning and taking home the belt. Um, Shida has had a really good like set of runs now as the champion, so I'm not feeling like it needed to move on here or didn't need to move on
No,
here.
yeah.
I think this is
The
probably the time to do it because I don't know who else would
Exactly,
be
yeah.
able to at this point.
It's also like finally like the only downside for this comes from the fact that Tony's previous two runs were like, you haven't had the belt yet and everybody else is dead, so please take it because everyone else is dead.
Tons of injuries.
Uh and that was yeah, and that was before she had like a character that was just a character period. She was
Yeah,
really
she was the
honestly
generic
pretty
I wrestle and I
yeah.
want the belt persona.
She's pretty boring to watch compared to people. Um, Jade was in the company at the time. That Britt was probably still injured. Like there's just people that have better personalities, and now he's one of them. It makes sense. Give her the belt. This is going to be probably a good comedy coded run because of her current gimmick. But I like it. It's silly. They're clearly just having fun with it, and that's the best kind of gimmick to have is when everybody's on board and they're just having a silly, dumb time together.
Yeah. And I wonder if this will maybe pave the way for the Hikaru Shida heel turn to actually happen.
I I hope so. I hope it does.
In the future, I wanted it for so long because I think she'd do an exceptional job as a Yakuza style heel, funnily enough.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems like the moment to do it, of have her be upset at losing here. Especially because Tony Storm won by cheating. This was not a clean
Yes.
victory. Tony Storm had a steel plate in her butt
Yes.
and impacted Hikaru Shida to victory, which sounds ridiculous, but honestly, it was pretty good.
It did happen.
It happened, and it was legitimately kind of convincing in a way I didn't expect it to be.
Mhm.
So, yeah, this is a fun match. It ends with Luther like princess carrying Tony Storm out,
Yeah,
which is just
yeah.
a super funny image. This whole match was
Hilarious.
good because Tony Storm, incredible wrestler, like legitimately very good women's wrestler, and Hikaru Shida is obviously top of her game as well. So we finally have like a championship match that is two people at the top of her game. Um,
Yeah.
which we've not often got with AEW. It's a lot of the time one person who's a little rustier in ring with one person who does really good character work. And you'll have like Shida or Serena Deeb or someone who can carry the match, be the other person. But it didn't feel like either one of them was carrying the match here. This was definitely
No, yeah.
just a good match altogether. Um, yeah. Other thoughts on this? Or just solid women's match for the championship.
No, yeah. I mean, I'll say this. I don't think this is as good as the other women's match.
Yeah.
For reasons that we'll get into when we get to that match in a little bit. But I'm just happy to be on board with both wrestlers in an AEW women's match in a pay per view and not be like this. This is another pay per view where it really like nothing was a bathroom match,
Yeah.
and this match is no exception. I did really like the ending because if Tony Storm was going to cheat, she's going to do it in some silly, stupid slapstick
Especially
way,
because the first
and it
cheating in the
worked.
match was a like heel stiletto heel that she pulls out,
Yeah.
gets taken by the ref, but oh no, she has a second stiletto heel that she then uses. It's just very funny. It's a funny, goofy gimmick that works really well. It's the right level of goofy for wrestling in a serious way. All right, after this, we have Ricky Starks and Big Bill with La Faction Ingobernable. I can't do it.
It's
Not good
okay.
enough to do it. Rush and Drolastico, accompanied by their various people, FTR, and then Kings of the Black Throne. This is for the four-way. It's a four-way ladder match for the tag team championship, which is always fun when they do these. I think this is.
Oh yeah.
Especially because all four of the tag teams here were. I don't want to say better than I thought they would be because I thought they would be good.
Yeah.
They met
I'll say
expectations.
smoother than I feel like we'd think they would be because
Especially with Big Bill.
yeah. I do okay. I'll get to Big Bill again because I have to gush about Big Bill yet again for like the third time in a row here.
When do you expect someone named Big Bill is gonna play out?
Well, okay, yeah, fine. I'll do it right now.
Do it now.
Big Bill. You look at him and you look at his past history and you just think, oh well, he's just gonna suck. He's just gonna be the guy who picks
He's gonna be
people
the
up, he
big
throws them down.
jobber.
But he's actually good. He's so good for what he is. And like you look at just him and Ricky Starks as like this is the weirdest, like dumbest tag team combination possible, but they're champions and it works because they play off each other so well and they're both so good at what they do and they wrestle pretty differently. So they kind of like cover each other's like areas that they don't normally cover and wrestle in. But Big Bill especially, like I'm just so amazed at how satisfying he is to watch. Like his just like the power bombs that he does or whatever,
Yeah.
where he just like grabs you by the throat and it is like literally like 8 or 9 feet in the air and he just throws you down. It's so crazy looking every single time. And of course you put ladders around that where he's just like picking up like multiple of them, shoving them over and stuff. It's very good. And then they had some interactions. The mandatory big men slap and meet.
Of course.
With Birdie King and Big Bill. They hit the things they had to hit. And what I was gonna say before is that I don't think AEW ladder matches are ever bad, but AEW ladder matches with like so many people in the ring, especially, uh, tend to be very, very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
Where
Dangerous
like a
and just
ladder,
messily
it's
put
yeah,
together.
where they're like it ends up kind of working in their favor where that like it still becomes a satisfying match to watch because like oh my god how do you get up after that or like oh my god the ladder broke like mid flight but it's still the spot still happened or like something that the spot might have been botched but like something else happened that still made it seem like that guy really like got hurt or whatever but like this time the match just like went like perfectly it's just all the spots worked the ladders didn't like scatter or like snap in any weird places while somebody was climbing up on them. And nobody's elbow bent the wrong way. Everyone's bones stayed in their bodies. It was very clean, and I was kind of surprised. This is like a really good match for that reason alone. I think it's just because
Yeah.
all eight of these guys are just on the top of their game.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. But there's also the small thing that like consistently bothers me with AEW is they rely a lot on suicide dives and topes, but they're really bad at camera angles that make them look good. Where they'll
Yeah,
often like
yeah.
you see the person just literally standing in place to catch the person that's about to come through, and it
Yeah, and
doesn't
you're supposed to
really.
hide that.
You're supposed to cut away from that so you don't see that. And in this match, they did. Like you usually didn't
Mhm.
see. It looked like it was not an intentional catch every time, even though obviously it is, but it looked a lot more natural here than I think it does in many matches that they've put on with this many people, where they rely a lot on those tope and suicide dive spots. And yeah, I thought they actually looked good here, comparatively, especially because they have a lot of fast movers in this that can pull them off very quickly compared to like the classic Roman Reigns dive. That like
Yeah.
looks good, but you can't pull it off at the speed of a luchador.
Yeah.
And so I think it has worked very well here. And this is the end of this is obviously Big Bill and Ricky Starks, because with a name like Big Bill, how can you not win the match? I'll never get over it. Yeah, it's very solid, and they're also playing up here that House of Black has had a rough night so far. Buddy Matthews lost his match earlier. They lost this match. Obviously, didn't take home the titles, despite a good performance, and that means that they've just not had a great night. So they play that up on commentary a little bit, leading into our match after this. We'll get into when we get to there. Any other thoughts on this one?
No, yeah, nothing apart from what I said already. I'm just happy nobody got seriously injured. These are all good teams, and it sucks that the Lucha Bros kind of consistently have one guy down over and over again, because they're another fantastic team and they would have done awesome in this match. But no, yeah, I am excited to see what literally any of these teams do next, as always, because they're all fun to watch.
Yeah. You know what I want to see? Wild match idea. Well, once the Lucha Bros are in working order, along with everyone else here, do a big tag team battle that is a ladder match and over 2 rings. I want to see that. Give
Yes,
me
dude, yes.
the what is it? I don't want to say war games, but blood and guts
Yeah,
of
yeah.
ladder matches. I want to see that, where
agree.
the belt is suspended in the middle, or maybe it's that tag titles. You have one belt in each ring, right? And you got to get both.
That would be sick.
Do something fun like
would be
that. I would
perfect.
love to see that here, because it's obviously these guys have so much creativity and how they go about these matches, and I think they just need the extra space to work with.
Yeah,
They could do something really special. All right, great match. Moving on to another great match. Julia Hart, Chris Statlander, and Sky Blue in a 3-way match for the TBS Championship.
Mm-hmm. This, honestly, so okay, Stat has been with AEW since I think the beginning.
Yeah.
And she's having the time of her life right now because she's just coming back after multiple really serious like leg injuries. And she's like literally, it feels like she has not like missed a step at all. She's always great, always will be great. Her move set is super satisfying. Uh, Julia Hart and Sky Blue, on the other hand, are kind of people that showed up during the pandemic era of AEW Dark, and so for the longest time, like especially like because we had
Julia Hart had a
so many.
weird cheerleader gimmick with the Varsity
It's
Blondes. Like,
Yeah, because she was a cheerleader
yeah,
in real life, but it's just like I don't care. That's not a gimmick I'm gonna
that's
care
not.
about and get behind. It's just it's a cutesy thing to have an outfit themed around
That's a
that,
great
right?
gimmick for a jobber, right? Like,
Exactly, yeah, which is basically what she was. But the best thing to happen to her was was to get slimed, because now she's
and then
in.
people complained for months that she didn't join the House of Black, and so they pulled the trigger on it. And yeah,
And
I
dude,
mean,
it's
this is a thing where like there are moments when you see an entrance when you just go, I know who's winning this match as soon as the entrance
yeah,
happens.
yeah.
Julia Hart's entrance here was convincing. Like there's
Mhm.
a moment where it cuts to the red lighting and everything. And like, look, I know I work on Diablo. I have to talk about things that are red and black. It's mandated that I talk about this stuff. But yeah, the vibes were right during her entrance, and Julia Hart's hat does so much work.
Always slaying it,
So
dude.
much work, especially with this lighting and walking in and her expressions and everything as this is going
Mhm.
on. This is, I think, just a very solid gimmick now of like they
Yeah.
have Julia Hart is becoming like a mainliner at this point, and moving out of the territory of like the token woman in the faction, I think, and is actually moving
Yeah,
into her own now, which is really good to see.
because that's what I wanted to say is that both her and Sky Blue were around during like the really wibbly wobbly days of the AEW women's division, and they were like just starting uh like wrestling for TV, and you could tell like they were just not really anywhere near as good as most of the four like women that AEW would consistently like just push all the time because they were just they're just too new compared to them. Like literally, there's nothing they could have
Yeah,
done.
they're
You don't
new,
come
they're
into wrestling
young. You
being
can't
perfect.
justify them beating someone like Britt Baker or Serena Deeb at that
It's
time.
yeah, but
So
like by this match, both of them are like they're close enough to stats level where it's like yeah this match as a result was fantastic because all three of them are wrestling different ways, very interesting ways, and like super satisfying ways. Where they're like the moves are satisfying. They're actually selling. So if anything, Britt Baker could learn a thing or two from from them now. And they have like characters that are
yeah, Sky Blue
interesting.
ditching the cap, best thing to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Start this.
She's become super interesting since the weird like it's like a my roommate and I call their relationship a toxic Yuri because that's just what it is. It's just very strange. Like, are they friends? Are they enemy? Kind of not really. It's like they're kind of both inside each other's heads
They're
since
Pokemon
the
rivals.
yeah, yeah. But there's like something weird with that dang black mist. I don't know. It's so interesting. Instead of just being like I'm clearly the biggest of the three. I can just I can probably take both of you on, and she does for most of the match. Um, but like yeah, this the other women's match was very good, but I honestly think that this is AEW's best women's match in a while, in a pretty significant while. This is very because
Yeah,
it's one of those things where
it's
like
doing
after
everything right.
after
Like, it's telling the
it's doing
story. They're
everything, yeah,
all doing a really good job. Like, this is basically, this to me felt like watching Nick Wayne and Darby, where you just
yeah,
know
yeah,
like
yeah.
these two are going to be stars when they're a bit older.
Hmm.
Um, and the very same feeling here with Julia Hart and Sky Blue in this match.
For
And
sure,
obviously,
yeah.
Chris Statlander is already top of the women's division. Very unique compared to a lot of the other wrestlers there, where she's a
Hmm.
lot more heavy-handed, more of a bruiser, and that plays very well with these two. Yeah, I think just an overall really impressive match, um, especially because it does look like Chris is in such control for most of it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, lots of little moments
Which
here of like Julia Hart and Sky Blue are not getting along during this match, and I think it's important to mention.
no,
Like,
yeah.
this is not a traditional like, oh, we're gonna team up and beat the champion. This is very much a free for all, um, which is good to see because I think it is more convincing that way for whoever wins. Which in this case
Hmm.
was Julia Hart taking it by pinning Sky Blue. So
Yeah, she Chris was in the middle of pinning her, and Julia Hart knocked her out to steal the pin real fast, and it actually worked. And I just that is such a base decision
yeah,
by Tony Khan or whoever booked this. Like this is the time to like the perfect time to give her a belt because I feel like she's just reaching like the start of her peak, right?
yeah.
It's clear. I mean, she's still at the beginning of her hopefully long career, so she still has more to like do and get better at. But just like getting a belt right now is perfect because it gives her
She
so
has the
much
momentum
momentum.
going in to
Exactly,
continue
exactly.
on, especially because with someone this young and this like new to being in the prime, I would say
Hmm.
you have a lot of opportunities that you otherwise don't have with championships. Of like, it doesn't matter how this run goes. Any route is interesting because it hasn't happened before. Like, there's not you have not
Yeah.
told Julia Hart's championship stories yet, so whatever she does is interesting. as long as they keep that momentum up and actually put the women on the show.
Yeah.
Like we consistently harp on, but there's a reason because both of these women's matches were really good. I want to see more of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
And you have a
after
3-hour rampage. I
yeah,
think
like
right now, but uh, but I don't know. There needs to be. I mean, yeah, we say it every time. There needs to be more women's matches on TV. That both of the ones in this pay per view were good, and now the belts are both on people that are capable of interesting stories or are in the middle of
yeah,
interesting stories already.
absolutely, because it's the classic catch-22. People say that women's wrestling doesn't sell, but it doesn't sell because it's never given the resources it needs. So it's a cycle of
Mm-hmm.
if you don't give it the resources, it's not gonna reach the level that they needed to reach. But if they do, like they did in this show, they reach heights that are really cool. So I hope to see more of this. All right, after this match, we move to the big signing announcement, Brett. And who
Mm-hmm.
else but Will Ospreay
Who else?
is now AEW. He's all elite, with the caveat that he's not actually in yet. He's delayed a little bit because of some New Japan stuff and wants to finish out his
Bruv.
business there.
Yeah.
Lots of bruvs were dropped in this. We're like, I gotta
Bruvs.
finish
Yeah.
out with New Japan. I've been there for my I'm 30 now. I was there for my whole career. I gotta finish out with them. And it's convincing. It's a convincing thing to do, especially because the relationship with New Japan and AEW is very good. So
Yeah,
you
but
would
I think
hope
that's
to
the
see
only
this carried
reason.
on.
That's like the only reason they were even able to announce it this early because his like actual real life contract isn't up yet. Like that's why
Yeah,
he's not. That's like the real life reason why he's not just coming to AEW right now. But it works in Tony's favor because now like no brainer bar something awful or stupid happening. Like Will Ospreay is going to be main eventing Wembley fucking
yep.
Stadium, which is
Like this
going to
is your
bring the
Wembley ticket
crowd for
seller.
that. Yeah, exactly. So that he has them for that, and New Japan gets to keep him for the end of his signed contract before he leaves. So that's why you have good relationships with the other people in your business, so that you can all benefit together and not push everyone else away by being American assholes all the time.
Yeah,
Crazy how that works.
absolutely. So super fun to see Will Ospreay doing his thing, and I'm excited to see whatever he does at Wembley because they really built
Mhm.
it up here. So if he's going to take on the
Yeah,
best of the best, which I'm wondering if that's the MJF loss.
I would imagine so. If not MJF, whoever is fighting him at Wembley is going to to lose.
Yeah,
I
I don't
would
know if they're going to
very
pull the
much
trigger
bet
on a
on that.
championship immediately, but they could. They certainly could with Ospreay. So
Mhm.
very excited to see where this goes. After this, we've got the match, Brett.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have
yeah.
Swerve Strickland accompanied by Prince Nana, and Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match. Hangman's
Texas
signature
Death.
match type. This is the longest match on this card.
It is, yeah, 5 seconds under half an hour.
Yeah, it is 10 seconds longer than the title match. So,
hmm hmm
uh, very, very good match. This was wild. I think this is the only word to describe what we saw
Yeah,
here. Swerve's
yeah.
entrance is really good. He's always got the energy, and Nana is a good accompaniment to that. This is back behind the scenes videos of a bunch of the cast and crew dancing to Swerve's music that are very funny as well.
Yep,
But
yep.
they have Swerve walking out looking very serious comparatively to the craziness going on behind him. Which yeah, works
hmm
well for this. They Swerve is in gladiator mode here, and it looks great. Adam Page is pissed because Swerve was in his child's room, so
In his real
obviously,
life house,
yeah,
talking down to his baby boy. Oh my god.
it is. This is like one of the better angles I think in the show for sure. And yeah,
hmm
they get brutal. This is you can tell they really committed to this match being the Adam Page is so pissed that he just wants to do damage and fully commit to it with a staple gun. Uh,
Yeah, when when I was watching this for the first time, I was like, this because like Swerve's funny silly Nana entrance happens, and thank God they capitalized on Prince Nana's dance because it's one of those things that he probably just did for fun, and it caught on so good. But Adam Page does not even wait for his entrance. He doesn't even wait for Swerve's entrance to finish. He just runs out and starts beating the crap out of him. And like for the first like 10 minutes, it's just Hangman. And Hangman, like he's walking around the ring with the energy of someone who's
he
like, "You
immediately
entered my house, I'm going to kill you."
ties Swerve's hands together with duct tape, and you're like, oh, Page doesn't care about winning like this match. He just cares about doing damage. So Swerve spends the first like 10 minutes of this match with his hands tied up.
And full of staples.
Yeah, full of staples, because he's getting hit with a staple gun repeatedly.
That's the thing. They've done the staple gun before on AEW, and it's very clearly been just like, it's just the staple gun. It doesn't actually have any staples in it, but they sell it like there's staples in it, right? And so they pull it out, and I'm like, oh, that's really brutal. I'm gonna, I'll play along, haha. And then there's a point where he gets Swerve twice, and Swerve in like the chest, and Swerve rolls out of the ring, and the camera zooms in on it, and you can actually see that there are staples in both of his pecs, just like lodged in there. And I was like, "Oh my god, it's real!" And he keeps doing it up his arms, more in his chest. He staples his kid's finger painting to the side of
the thing with the finger painting that gets me is he tries it once. Hangman tries to do it once on one side of Swerve's cheek, pushes it in. You see the staple like break through the finger painting drawing, right? And so he pulls the drawing back out, and there's just a massive staple on the side of Swerve's face. Then he's like, oh, well, the drawing didn't stick. I'm going to go to the other side. And he does it on the other side of his face.
Make sure the spot works.
And then the moment of this match that like I think everyone has seen at this point is Hangman rips that staple out and then drinks Swerve's blood full-on vampire style.
Yup, and spits it up out in a fountain like Triple H spitting out water for his entrance.
Wildest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is okay. This match, but that moment in particular has now become the litmus test for if I care about your opinion on wrestling, because so many people who still think that that everything should just be for little boys and little girls and little everybody in betweens. Just like, this is too brutal. This is disgusting. They should never have put this in their product. I can't believe AEW would allow for something this horrible to happen. This is insulting to everybody watching. This is the worst match I've ever seen as a result. And dude, you need to get on the bus to fucking Timbuktu or wherever you need to go, buddy, because this is the most awesome match I've ever seen in my life. It was so cool and also, brutal,
it
and
hits
the
you
perfect
like,
thing for them.
The staples are probably legitimately like way less serious than most other things that happen in death matches. Like, there's no way this is more dangerous than doing something with the light tubes or even just getting thrown on the corner of the stairs. Like, is probably more dangerous than this is. But it's just the visual look of this, and I imagine the like actual mental toll that it takes on them to be doing this. Like, this can't happen very often. Like, this is not a match to pull out for another year, maybe 2. Like, that's a thing that you don't pull out very much. But it hits here because they built it up. The moment has led to this. It's led to it getting very serious. They have the means and the reason. They have the right 2 competitors here who are like, we can deal with it. We can make this safe and like actually do this in a way that isn't a like threat to either of us. And I think that it was done the safest they could have. I mean, obviously, like there's no safe way to staple yourself with a staple gun.
Oh yeah,
like that's not safe at all. But I think understand the meaning of like it's very clear that they were doing this measuredly and it wasn't a thing that was being just thrown around. But yeah, it was wild. This whole thing was wild. And then after Hangman spits out Swerve's blood, later on in the match, Swerve gets loose, grabs the staple gun, and then to prove how much of a madman he is, staples his own chest 3 times.
While laughing.
I was like, one of them,
blood from his forehead.
I saw the first one, and I was like, this is insane. And then he did it again and again, and I was like, oh my god. Craziest thing possible. The Nana inclusion here was very good because it gave them a good way to break Swerve out of those duct tape hand bindings
Hmm.
without it being a massive undertaking that it
Hmm.
typically is when there's any kind of like binding or something in a match. But yeah, wild. The staple gun was wild. Hangman gets a staple in the forehead, I think, at one point.
Yeah, yeah,
That was also crazy because that was clearly like I think the most risky one they had to do because it had to happen as like a reversal. So that
yeah,
one
yeah.
I was like that could have gone wrong. It could have gone into an eye or something if you did not have your aim right. But thankfully they were good and no serious injury there. But man, wild match, full of barbed wire chairs and all the Texas
Speaking
deathmatch
of
staples.
speaking of going into eyes and barbed wire chairs, there's there's a spot where Hangman's up tied up doing something on the top of the corner post, and we're just supposed to come up and beat him on the back with the barbed wire chair. But this is pretty late in the match, and they got the full usage out of that chair over the course of like the latter 2/3 of this match. Because when Swerve beats Hangman's back with the chair, a little stray strand of, and it's obviously it's not real barbed wire, it's TV barbed wire. But it's still pointy. It just has less barbs than real barbed wire.
It's
Um,
just not it's not
it
sharpened like real barbed
it's
wire
yeah.
is.
It it's it flings around up around Hangman's like chest and up into his face and almost gets him right in the eye, and they go slow-mo over it, and it was completely accidental, no way to plan for it, but it looks super brutal, and it could have gone so horribly wrong if it actually got him in the eye. But oh my god, it worked. It ended up working so well because he's fine,
Yeah.
but oh my god, it looks so insane.
Like
This
Swerve's
I
Crimson Mask here is intimidating as hell too. Of like
Yeah,
both
yeah.
these people are very very wild for doing this, and
Mhm.
yeah, great match, man. I
I
don't know how long it needs to be before I can take another one of these, but yeah,
Yeah, this is a pretty safe to say this is, and I say this considering only like, because okay, there's a difference between death matches for like TV. I know this is a pay per view, but they still, you know, they use like sugar glass. If they were to use light tubes, they'd be the fake light tubes. Like the really thin tables, the unsharpened barbed wire, real staples though, I guess. Um, but if like an indie death match or like a real death match, it's like okay, yeah, where we got real panes of glass between two chairs. We got real light tubes. We got fire. We were putting people through like just doors that are just like thick planks of wood between two chairs because doors are cheaper than tables, I guess, in GCW. Um, but it's like so it's definitely two different kinds of death matches because you can't have somebody actually get like super seriously crazy injured in a planned event on TV. That's just not how that works. That's not good for like that type of like wrestling talent to do consistently because it's too risky. But I do think all those things considered, this is probably like story things and character stuff also considered. This is probably the best TV death match I think AEW has done so far that I
yeah,
have ever seen so far. Um, it's gonna be. I agree with you. It's gonna be difficult to top it. I don't think they need to do a death match like this for a while unless there's some other like someone bleeding during a Mox match or like a street fight or something is different, right? But this is like super brutal. It had to be because it ended up working really well for the storyline. But they can. It is wise for them to not do this all the time because it makes it more poignant that it happens so rarely, right?
yeah. Especially
Um,
this is like a to me this seems like almost a send off for doing death matches for a little while, just because death matches are Hangman's thing. Like that's his signature
yeah,
match
yeah.
type, and he lost. Like this is not
Hmm.
a victory for
His
him. So
first
I don't
loss in Texas
see
Deathmatch.
him doing another one for a little while. Uh, and I'm excited for whatever storyline they pull with both Swerve and Hangman after this.
Because I feel like it's not over somehow.
Yeah, I like wonder if this is the end or if they're gonna push it further. Like maybe there'll be a blood and guts at some point with these two. leading factions of their own. But I'm like, I don't know what that will look like. I don't know if that's going to happen or if was the end. Like maybe this was Hangman has to accept that he lost, and that's the story they tell here. So, yeah, I mean, super intimidating match. They did a great job. Everyone involved in this. Obviously, like the ending was really good too. Of they sort of pulls Hangman and hangs him on a piece of chain, like hanging the Hangman, which is just a super good image and looks brutal after all of this. Yeah, I have like this is 10 out of 10 no notes territory, right?
Yeah.
Wild match, and I'm glad it ended when it did because I don't know how much more they could have done here, but yeah, for a like a long death match of like normally death matches tend to lean into like the 20-minute at the most range. This was half an hour of whatever this was.
So, brutality.
Pure brutality. All right, our next match after this, unless we have final notes on this, but I think we've said everything we can say.
Yeah. Can't say anything more.
Is the Golden Jets, which is Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks, and this is one of the interesting storylines because the stakes here are if the Golden Jets win, they get the Young Bucks Tag Team Championship opportunity that they had. But if the Young Bucks won, the Golden Jets would have to disband. So consequences either way here. Golden Jets at the end take this, and they're playing up this idea of like Matt and Nick Jackson turning basically into like brat heels right now.
Which fits.
Which fits, of course. Like they've done this role before, and it works really well. But in this scenario, this is like the Elite has fractured fully at this point into the Golden faction with Kenny and Jericho and Ibushi, and then the Bucks on the other side. So, yeah, I think this is interesting from a storytelling perspective. This was a really solid match, but it's also a Jericho tag match.
Yeah. It's interesting.
That work as well.
It's interesting because I will constantly shit on Chris Jericho's execution of the Judas Effect being extremely unsatisfying. And now he's here fighting against two people who stole that move and do it better than he does.
Yeah.
Like the Bucks doing the Judas Effect is so deadly looking. Like it looks absolutely brutal. And Chris Jericho doing it just like it's like a wet noodle. It's like a pool noodle or something. It does not look very like threatening as a finisher, especially, and it just made it feel all the more bullshit when he used it as a heel to win matches in like a split second. But yeah, I mean, well, first things like first, it's just hard to follow up what came before this with anything.
Like this
So
is
I feel
weird
like
because this almost is the bathroom match, right?
it's the closest thing to have to it because anything after the death match would be. But like considering that, especially, this is it ended up
Between the
being
death match and the
pretty
title
good.
match. So
Yeah.
I think it's as good as it could be being where it is.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think this is more important narratively than it was performance wise.
For
and of course, like
yeah.
it's not bad. It's Kenny and the Bucks always do really well. Jericho it tends to be a 50-50 shot. I think whenever you put him in the barrel of a match as to what it's going to look like at the end. But obviously, like like a Dragon Street fight, he did a great job. So I think this works well. I hope that they don't keep doing the Golden Jets with Kenny and Jericho.
Yeah, this is a short-term thing for sure.
And that this is short-term and give it to Kenny and Ibushi.
Yeah,
and have
people
that be
want the Golden Lovers so bad.
like you have the Golden Lovers lined up. They have a title opportunity. Like
they're ready. They're so ready.
I'm so wondering. I wonder if the storyline they expand this out into is Kenny takes the title shot with Ibushi instead, and Jericho gets pissy, or if they're actually going to do the Kenny and Jericho title attempt, which I hope if they do that they don't win. I don't want this to be a long-term arrangement.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? Do you want? Okay. I do like Ricky Starks and Big Bill. They're also very clearly a shortish term thing, right? they don't have a name, right? It's
Yeah.
just their names is their tag team name. You know it's not going to last long. They don't even have their own entrance music.
Well, because
That's
they're
how
both
you
great
can tell.
singles stars, so they don't need to be a tag team,
Exactly.
right? Like,
Like Golden Lovers. That's like I want to see Golden Lovers versus FTR for the championship. I want to see Golden Lovers versus
imagine
Lucha
Lucha
Brothers.
Bros. Like, imagine
Yeah,
that match,
yeah.
man.
Like that's so if it's Golden Jets for where the tag team champions are right now, I'm fine with that. But Tony Khan, you are literally this time sitting on gold, and you need to use it while it's
Because
there.
we can't keep making Kenny and Ibushi wrestle forever, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're both prone to injury. Pull
Mhm.
the trigger while they're healthy and okay. So, yeah, I am hesitant on the Golden Jets angle. I think this is a fun angle to do short term. I don't think this can be like the long term thing, especially
No,
because
yeah.
Jericho is, I think, just really hitting the end of his tether here with, especially tag team. Like, I think he can cover for it more in a singles match because you can pick opponents that are less fast. But in a
Mhm.
tag match with the Bucks, it's just hard to, I think, have Jericho in this mix and not have it look a little off put, right? Or like
Yeah, because
mismatched.
yeah, he wrestles in a very particular way where it's just like if you're not at his pace, it's pretty obvious that he's going to have a hard time keeping up.
Yeah, it's like Jericho can put on a great match with Kingston or Mox, but
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
with the faster, more quick indie style wrestlers here, I think this is less of Jericho's shining spot. Not to say that he's bad or anything, but this is just not where I think he's most entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
And that the alternatives are more entertaining of having Ibushi and Kenny. So
I I will say that out of all the recent like long droning like okay, can we get this over with Chris Jericho's storylines, this is easily the most interesting storyline he's been a part of in a very long time
yeah, I
in
have
in
no
AEW.
gripes
The
with the actual
storyline itself is
storyline
good.
here.
Yeah.
I think that's quite good. I just think that the weird, like, they keep putting him into tag matches with it that just feel weird. The big multi-man thing with the Like a Dragon thing I think felt a lot more natural just because that's a goofy match that's basically a stadium stampede. So Jericho did totally fine there.
Mhm.
But yeah, obviously Kenny and Jericho win this match. They get the title shot. Um, any other thoughts on this?
Uh no, I feel like we hit everything. I feel like also like we made it sound like the match was a lot like worse than it actually
No.
was because we just had a lot of complaints about it. The match was still very good. It was just
Yeah, it's in
like
a night
again.
coming after the death match and after the really good women's TBS championship match.
Mhm.
You're just following a bunch of things that were like very very high quality.
With
And not
like
to say that this
little
isn't
or no
quality. It's just,
mistakes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's obviously just a little bit sloppier. Um, but yeah, fun match. Definitely felt like a bathroom break comparatively to everything else here. Though
Mhm.
no match on this card was actually a bathroom break. I think I agree with you on
Yeah,
that
if you
one.
were if you were going to go during one, that was the one because the next one is also almost a half an hour.
Yes. So we then cut to our next match, which is the championship match between Adam Cole and Jay White. Of course, at the 11th hour, Adam Cole is standing in the ring, still on crutches and in the
Mhm.
cast. He's like fully had to like sit up, do the boom thing while sitting on the ring apron, and then slide in, and like he really just looks injured. Did a good
Yeah.
job of really making you know Adam Cole can't fight this. If this fight goes through, he will fall over and die. Like, that's what will happen if he fights Jay White. And then you hear the ambulance in the background. It turns out MJF stole the ambulance. That's
Yes.
the angle they committed to. Was MJF stealing the ambulance. And I love that. I think it's perfectly goofy because this is a goofy tag team with goofy moves like the kangaroo kick.
Yep,
And
yep.
I
Double
think,
clothesline.
yeah, double clothesline kangaroo kick. And it's perfect. This is a perfect tag team. And they
Mhm.
obviously can't stop with it, and Adam Cole's injured. So this is gonna keep going until Adam Cole's back because there's no reason to stop. It's
Yeah.
not gonna wear out its welcome for a while. Um, so yeah, MJF shows up, and the match commences with MJF back, obviously injured. Uh, he has his leg wrap on. His kangaroo kick attempts are repeatedly foiled until he finally gets one off, and then just seems so jazzed afterwards.
Oh
It's really
yeah.
fun to watch. Yeah, MJF is great at storytelling mid match, and so is Jay White here. So
Mhm.
this was just a really good uh, championship match here with playing up the Adam Cole, or not the Adam Cole, the MJF injury and the Adam Cole injury, uh, and Jay White's ruthlessness and also surprise at what he's dealing with, because it's very clear that like when MJF is up there, he was not expecting it,
Yeah, yeah.
and was not fully ready. So I think that plays really well into the resolution here of MJF retaining his title. Um, and yeah, really entertaining match with a good flow to it. There's lots of moments here that are very fun of like MJF having to take on both the guns while um, Jay White is in the center of the ring, just distracting the ref and whatnot. Like Adam Cole standing in the sideline trying to help, but clearly can't because he's on crutches.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining to see.
They
He's there
have
the whole time.
yeah, they have a good series of spots towards the end too where um Adam Cole like keeps trying to he's just trying to do the only thing he can, which is give MJF like the belt or something
Things to cheat
to
with.
help him get a one up. It's to counter cheat because the guns and Jay White are cheating way more
Yeah.
up until that point. And it's just like, well, if they're gonna play dirty, is the only thing we could possibly do. And he tries to give MJF
The
the one of the
ROH
Ring of
belt.
Honor, yeah, one of the Ring of Honor tag team belts, and that backfires because Jay White catches him and he uses it against MJF.
And it's a
And they keep
smooth
doing,
transition too of like he catches it
oh
and then
yeah,
immediately turns around and hands it, and it looks really smooth compared to a lot of the
hmm
times when we'll see like them fighting over the belt or something and then ripping it out of people's hands. It's just
yeah.
done very smoothly.
They do the same thing with MJF's classic ring. Uh, and I think this is the one where like he puts it into the ring, and Jay White catches it and he's like, he starts poking fun at him, and Adam Cole's like, oh my god, again, I've been thwarted. I've been twice thwarted by this Australian man. And uh, and then MJF obviously gets the ring and uses it to screw over Jay White, um, pummel him into the earth, and win the match without the ref seeing anything.
Yeah,
Uh, I feel like by
deservedly
now.
so here.
Oh yeah, yeah. This was a super hard fought battle, and I feel like by
Earned
now,
cheating.
yeah, MJF's like big matches, like they were always good and fun, but you can kind of see like where like the kind of choreography that was about to happen before it happened, just because of like the way that he specifically, because no other matches happen like this, so it has to be MJF doing the super choreographed like mega spots of like 16 like roll ups in a row or whatever, because those are the only matches where they happen in. Um, but like now it's gotten to the point where I feel like he's just mastered it, where
Yeah,
like he
for
can
sure.
mix it up enough where it doesn't feel like a just a super long like scripted thing. It feels like the crazy spots and like drama and fun character things are there, but there's also just like solid wrestling all over the place in between, and it really just makes for like at the death match felt like 5 years, and it was half an hour, and it was like, thank God it's over. That was
Yeah,
fantastic, and it was grueling in a good way. This match was also almost a half an hour, but
felt like
it
10 minutes.
it went yeah, it went by super fast because things were constantly happening. There was no place for boredom at all. It was like just like Family Guy was in one corner, Subway Surfers was in the other corner, and like it was the perfect match to keep somebody completely occupied for a half an hour because it was just constantly super cool wrestling going on,
Yeah.
and character moments and stuff outside the ring and cheating, um and yeah,
Yeah, you could say
MJF,
this is
yeah,
really the whole Thanksgiving package. It's got
it's
all the
true.
fixings. So
Yep.
Yeah, very good match. I really like the angle that they did here. I wonder where Jay White's going to be going next with this, if this is the end of this feud or if it's going to continue at all. Because it kind of feels like this will be, I feel like this is going to be the end for now, but then it'll pick back up when Adam is back.
Yeah,
I
something
think
like
that's
that.
maybe the
Because
way
I
to play
know,
this.
yeah, because Jay White is in
The Continental.
the Continental thing, and they're billing him as like the only guy in the whole tournament that's won a G1, which is a good place for him right now because it would be a shame for him to get like pushed to the sidelines and not do anything for like 2 months or something.
Yeah.
He's really good. But for now at least, that felt more final for the storyline
Okay,
than
we've got the tournament arc going. We can pull some people out of their what was their stories for a little while because we've wrapped them
yeah,
up,
yeah.
and we can have this distraction for a little bit, and then maybe pull back the dirty laundry afterwards, uh,
Hmm.
which feels like a good spot to be in. I think this is honestly AEW's answer of like whenever this you don't know what to do, throw a tournament arc. I'm down for it.
Oh, totally. And this tournament especially, if they do this every year, actually, like I love round robin tournaments.
Yeah,
The G1 in particular is always like sometimes there's some stinkers in there, but like just that format is really good and it always leads to some sick matches because if you like even one guy in that tournament, he's going to be wrestling like multiple times like within the week even maybe. It's just going to be crazy. And in AEW's case, at least with the we'll probably talk a little bit about the Continental Classic after this,
yeah.
but it looks like it's going to be pretty fun. So I'm happy with a lot of cool guys being thrown into it.
Absolutely. I mean, no better time than the present. That's our coverage of Full Gear, basically. We did. There was no
Yeah,
big end of show surprise here.
it didn't need to be either.
Yeah, there didn't need to be. We got Will Ospreay. We're happy in the show as it should end with MJF being champion and Adam Cole standing on the sidelines cheering him on. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think this is just a really solid pay per view the whole way through. I don't know that we hit the highs of things like the really good original CM Punk and MJF match way back in the day, like
Yeah,
the dog
yeah,
collar and stuff like that. I don't know that we hit those highs, but the death match was damn close. Like
very close.
if not hitting that. So very
And
good pay
there
per
wasn't a
view.
low either. Like the lowest thing was
That's
probably the
the thing
Jericho
here is
match, and
we
even then
did
was
not
like,
have a stinker.
yeah.
Even on the 0 hour, like the pre show was
Hmm.
absolutely fun to watch with two matches that were actually had like storylines going on. So I'm very happy to see that. And MJF's obsession now with wrestling two matches a night at pay per views,
It's
wild.
crazy, dude. Like I feel like he and Brian Danielson must have had some sort of conversation during their hour long, over an hour long, like grueling slugfest that they had together. Where Danielson was just like, "Hey, I like wrestling twice in the same week. I bet you can't do any better than that." And MJF was like, "Okay, hold my beer, I can." And then he's done it like two pay-per-views in a row, I think, maybe even three. I don't know. It's like crazy that he can do it so consistently, and the matches aren't like bad. They're both really solid.
Yeah, for sure. Um, all right. Well, let's talk about the Continental Classic a little bit, and then end the show. So this is the tournament arc that has happened.
Hmm.
That is ongoing now. We've had a couple of matches already, which is a format that I don't know if this is the same format as the G1 or it's similar,
I
where
think it is. I
it's
think it's the exact same.
yeah, two group blocks. You have blue and gold leagues with six wrestlers each. 20-minute time limits on matches. 3 points awarded for a win, one for a draw, and zero if you lose. No one at
Yeah.
ringside. If you violate that rule, you get a deduction. And the two group winners advance to the final. So it'll be one from each. And then they become the Triple Crown champion. So
Hmm.
I think this is very exciting. I think this is a great way to do. I hope this title is like when they actually get to the Triple Crown title. I'm wondering if they're going to treat it as a regular title where it's being put up and defended and whatnot, or if they're going to treat it as like the reward for the AEW G1
Oh yeah, I wonder.
and
I
have
don't
it be
know.
like it stays like with someone until the next year. Because I could see either being a really good option here.
Yeah,
Obviously, this is running through the holidays, so people are watching wrestling while they're on vacations and whatnot.
it's the perfect
Good
time.
time to run it. But yeah, we've had our first Dynamite that had some G1 matches, which we can go over the results there very quickly, which was Swerve Strickland defeating Jay Lethal, Jay White
Pretty
defeating
obvious.
Roosh, and Moxley
Also
defeating
pretty
Mark Briscoe.
obvious.
I think these are the baby matches. This is the we've decided these. I think the next set is a little bit harder, which is actually the ones we're missing right now to do
I know, yeah.
wrestling
Go
show.
back and watch it, I
I'll have
guess.
to catch up on it. But Claudio Castagnoli versus Daniel Garcia and Eddie Kingston versus Brody King. Not knowing how either of these matches went, Brett, what's your predictions?
Ooh, that's So
I think
the
these
first
two
one
are
was
harder to predict for me.
Claudio
And
and
Daniel
Garcia.
Garcia, and then Eddie Kingston and Brody King.
I feel like overall Garcia is going to do pretty well for himself in this tournament because he's kind of like, yeah, he's the youngest dude here. He's the one that shows the most potential because he's so young, but he's also like by far the most inexperienced. And
Yeah.
he's really good now, but like I don't know if he's beating Claudio as a first match, right?
Exactly.
I feel like Claudio's a fine person for him to lose to because Claudio is just absolutely fucking brutal.
I do wonder if
this
is the case of like maybe that's why they have the draw, right? Is you throw a 20-minute, they hit 20 minutes, and then it's a draw for Daniel Garcia to make sure he stays in the tournament for another round. But obviously, like even if he loses, he's still in it until he loses twice. So round robin style works really well. For that. Eddie Kingston, I think, is a shoe-in for the next one. I think Kingston and Moxley is absolutely a match that's going to happen during this tournament.
I feel like it.
If not be the final. So,
well, it has to be the final, doesn't it? Because it's the only time the groups cross over.
Yeah, like I'm wondering if it's the final or if it's going to be they both lose surprisingly and then have a match on the side. I could see.
If they have like a losers bracket for just them.
They do a losers bracket.
They should. I'd be so game for that.
It'd be very fun. So yeah, I wonder how this is going to go. I'm excited to see some of the names here that we haven't been seeing super often. Like Andrade is in this tournament. So I'm excited to see Andrade, and I really hope we see Andrade versus Bryan Danielson. I think that's...
Yes, please.
That is a match that I need injected into my veins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have... I think that's next. That's next up because they had Claudio and Daniel Garcia and Eddie and Brody, right? So Bryan and Andrade, that would be the only... That's up next. Basically, it's the next thing they have to do, which is going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's going to be a banger of a match. Very excited for that one.
Sure.
And yeah, I would love to see... weird pocket pick. I want to see Jay White and Mark Briscoe. I think there could be something to the match.
That's going to be good, yeah.
I
just love that Mark Briscoe's in here in general because he's such a weird pick, but he's so good.
He fits though. He complements Eddie Kingston very well as like the type of pick that he is. Even though they're on separate brackets, so obviously they're probably not going to clash. But it's fun to have them here because they throw a wrench and they have a very unique wrestling style that other people don't really have. So, yeah. I'm very excited to see how this tournament rounds out. I think this is a great way to kind of keep momentum going during the holidays without needing to build big storylines. Which I think is one of the biggest benefits of doing a tournament arc is you don't need to have super complex character moments going on. Even though AEW is traditionally pretty good at those. It just is a time when you can, hey, these people are fighting, it's going to be fun. Don't you want to watch? And I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, and if anything, this is where storylines start, right? Somebody's match ends in a dubious way, or you might not have anybody allowed at ringside. That doesn't mean that Hangman can't run into a swerve match and like make him screw up or something.
Yeah, lose him a point.
These things can happen. Yeah, and that's tournaments are the best thing that you can do in wrestling.
Because when you give strict rules like this, breaking them is a lot more intense, right? Where there's actual consequences now for breaking rules. There's consequences for people at ringside. And these things make it more exciting when those things happen. So I'm hoping we do get some shenanigans. Yeah, I think this will be a fun time, and it'll be fun to watch this through the holidays. And I like that we're limiting this to the next, 6 weeks, right? This is not going to go on forever. Because I think the AEW's had that problem with a few tournaments in the past, where it's been... Hey, we're doing this the international tournament, it's going to go on for 3.5 months. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is too long. It doesn't feel like a tournament anymore. It just feels like the show. Whereas here,
exactly.
it is absolutely the tournament. Yeah, I'm excited to see this. All right.
And it's building up to the next pay-per-view, which is called
Absolutely.
World's End, right at the end of the year, December 30th, I think it is.
This cadence of pay-per-views does have me worried a little bit. So far, it hasn't been a problem, but I'm starting to get the wrestling exhaustion. Like, there's too much stuff to keep up with. Of just like, AEW's gone from a 2-hour show and a 1-hour show to 2 2-hour shows generally and a 1-hour show. In addition to now doing near monthly pay-per-views instead of quarterly. Which is a huge increase. And I'm hoping this holds well for them, but I'm also really crossing my fingers that they come to an American streaming service.
Yeah, I think that's what is the crackpot plan, is because they're I forget the exact logistics of it, but I saw it was on Squared Circle, which is a horrible place, so I'm surprised I saw something so normal and well thought out there. But like some sort of deal with the streaming service. I think it would be Max, because they're partnered with the
I believe the hope is that
Turner
they show up on
Broadcasting.
Max.
Yeah, but I think there was like something where it's like, well, we need to see more reason for people to buy it. And here's the thing, I certainly do have my other methods. If I could be paying $50 for every single pay-per-view, I would. But if I had to pay,
if I have to pay $60 for every single one of them, it becomes a burden, right? Like that's now like a financial burden.
So, yeah, like my parents might even be unwilling to do that because it's so much. But if
because I traditionally have bought every pay-per-view, but it's like that's sustainable when they do 4 of them. It is going to become a lot harder to justify when they're doing 12. So I hope there is like a actual streaming deal in the works. And this
exactly, because then it becomes like Game Pass, which we also shill all the time because it's good. It's like, yeah, all these games are like $30, $50, $60, $70. But if you just pay $10, $15 a month, it becomes a lot less of a burden to play all of them, even ones that you weren't sure if you like or whatever. So if that becomes part of an AEW streaming thing where you just pay like I don't know how much Max is, like $7 a month or whatever. Even if there isn't a pay-per-view that month, if there's like 8 pay-per-views a year or something, that is such a good deal because you don't have to pay $60.
Yeah, and obviously the hope is if you put it on a streaming service like Max, you have people watching other stuff on Max, right?
Exactly.
And having regular Dynamite episodes in one place would also be a really good idea. So
that's the other thing. It's also just hard to catch up on AEW, right? Because unless you have a traditional cable deal, it's hard to find the stuff. And like even then, TBS's website player was awful back in the days when they were on TBS consistently, and you would watch them all on TBS because everything was on TBS. And now it's not the case. Like now you got to go to multiple different providers and whatnot. And it's a huge hassle to catch up, unless you're using something like Fight, but obviously that's only available outside of the US. So yeah, there's limited options for people that are not outside of the US by whatever means, or not buying the pay-per-views legitimately. So I hope they come up with a better solution to this, because I have a feeling AEW could absolutely be seeing more money if they had a more accessible thing. All right. Well, that sounds like a good note to end on. We've had 2 very good things to talk about here with the Continental Classic and our pay-per-view Full Gear. It was an excellent time, and I hope World's End can meet the same high. The World's End is also at a weird time. It's December 30th, which is an awkward day for a pay-per-view to fall on, of like right before New Year's.
It feels like a test to see if this will work.
I really wonder what World's End is going to look like, because I don't know if I'll be able to watch it. Like that's
that's
landing right around right in the window of like December 24th to January 1st of like that's when you're visiting family if you're moving somewhere.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Hopefully I'll find the time to be able to watch it live, but I have no idea if that's actually going to be a possibility at all. At which point it will suck to be spoiled on the finish of that championship
really.
immediately by AEW's Twitter. So, as always happens when there's a big match. All right. That said, it's the end of our show. As always, the Gamescast is Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the podcast platform of your choice, YouTube and Twitch. Wrestlecast happens whenever there's a pay-per-view for AEW. And no plans to stop. So,
Nope.
listen to us for eternity.
If they make more pay-per-views, I guess we gotta make more episodes. That's how it works.
Hey, it's easier now because you and I are both on Pacific time.
Yeah.